No one expected that doctor. Sam Parnia, a leading researcher in near-death experiences, would challenge long-held beliefs about life and death. His groundbreaking findings on consciousness surviving beyond clinical death have sparked a profound debate, offering new insights into the afterlife. Dr. Sam Parnia, a distinguished researcher and physician in the field of near-death experiences (NDEs), has devoted much of his career to studying the nature of consciousness and its potential survival after clinical death. His groundbreaking research has not only challenged traditional views on mortality, but also provided compelling evidence suggesting that consciousness may persist beyond the physical body's cessation. For Dr. Parnia, the exploration of NDEs goes far beyond academic curiosity. He sees it as a key to understanding one of the most profound questions of human existence: what happens after we die? Dr. Parnia's journey into this field began early in his career when, as a young physician, he encountered patients who reported vivid and extraordinary experiences during moments when they were declared clinically dead. These patients spoke of encounters with deceased loved ones, experiencing a sense of immense peace or even traversing through a tunnel of light. Initially, many would write off these experiences as mere hallucinations or the product of brain dysfunction. However, Dr. Parnia's scientific background made him approach these reports with a different mindset. Instead of dismissing them, he saw an opportunity to explore the possibility that these experiences might offer more than just subjective, ephemeral moments. They might provide clues about the true nature of consciousness. Driven by this curiosity, Dr. Parnia launched the Awareness During Resuscitation study in 2008, which aimed to gather empirical data on consciousness during cardiac arrest. The study was groundbreaking for its scale and ambition. Involving over 2,000 patients across multiple countries, the AWARE study was designed to capture first-hand accounts of the experiences of individuals who survived clinical death. It was a large-scale, scientifically rigorous attempt to explore the very phenomenon that had so intrigued Dr. Parnia. The results from the AWARE study were nothing short of astonishing. One of the most compelling findings was the documentation of out-of-body experiences, OBEs, reported by several patients who were clinically dead during the period of their cardiac arrest. These patients recounted highly detailed observations of their surroundings, describing events they couldn't have known about unless their consciousness had been functioning outside of their bodies. Some patients, for instance, could describe in vivid detail the medical procedures performed on them, even mentioning conversations that occurred in the room. Conversations that were not a part of their direct experience in their physical body. One of the most extraordinary cases involved a woman who, while clinically dead, could later describe the exact steps medical staff took to revive her, down to the color of the shoes one of the doctors was wearing. Such accounts challenge the conventional view that consciousness is entirely dependent on brain activity. For Dr. Parnia, these findings were more than just fascinating. They represented a monumental shift in our understanding of consciousness. He argues that if the brain is solely responsible for our awareness and perception, then how could individuals report such detailed and accurate information when their brains were no longer functioning? His research suggests that consciousness may not be limited to the brain at all. Instead, it may be a non-local phenomenon, existing independently of the body. This raises profound questions about the very nature of life, death, and existence itself. The implications of Dr. Parnia's work are far-reaching. His findings challenge the long-standing view that consciousness is a byproduct of neural activity in the brain, and open the door to the possibility that our awareness may continue even after the body dies. This radical perspective suggests that the afterlife could be more than just a spiritual or religious concept. It may be a real, observable phenomenon. In addition, Dr. Parnia's research has contributed to a broader movement in the scientific community that seeks to understand the relationship between mind, body, and consciousness, bringing together the worlds of science, philosophy, and spirituality in ways that were previously unimaginable. Dr. Parnia's work is far from finished. He continues to lead cutting-edge research in this field, exploring the mechanisms of consciousness and its potential survival after death. His studies aim to bridge the gap between scientific inquiry and spiritual exploration, offering new perspectives on the mysteries of existence. As his research advances, Dr. Parnia hopes to unlock even deeper insights into the nature of consciousness and what lies beyond physical death. His work offers a new lens through which we can view the most fundamental aspects of life, death, and the possibility of an afterlife, giving us all a glimpse into the extraordinary nature of the human experience. Dr. Sam Parnia's groundbreaking AWARE study, launched in 2008, represents one of the largest and most ambitious efforts to investigate the nature of consciousness during clinical death. The goal of the study was to answer one of the most pressing questions in the realm of near-death experiences, NDEs. Can consciousness persist after the body has ceased functioning? By exploring this question, Dr. Parnia sought to challenge the conventional view that consciousness is solely a product of brain activity, particularly during the moments of cardiac arrest when the heart stops beating. The AWARE study involved over 2,000 patients across multiple hospitals in several countries, including the United States, the United Kingdom, and Austria. This international collaboration was not just a collection of individual anecdotes. It was a meticulously planned and scientifically rigorous project aimed at gathering objective data on what happens during clinical death. The study specifically focused on patients who survived cardiac arrest and were successfully revived after their hearts stopped. Dr. Parnia and his team wanted to understand whether these individuals experienced any form of consciousness while they were technically dead. The research methodology behind the AWARE study was innovative. Patients who were about to undergo resuscitation were closely monitored, and the study team used advanced technology, including video cameras and special audio equipment, to capture any experiences the patients might report upon awakening. As part of the study, a crucial component was the placement of visual and auditory stimuli, such as images on a high shelf or particular sounds, in the resuscitation rooms, which could only be observed by those who experienced an out-of-body experience, OBE, during their cardiac arrest. These stimuli were designed to provide an objective measure of consciousness that was independent of normal sensory perception. The results from the AWARE study were shocking, offering strong evidence that consciousness might not be entirely dependent on brain activity. One of the most compelling aspects of the study was the number of patients who reported detailed out-of-body experiences during their cardiac arrest. Many of these individuals described highly vivid and accurate perceptions of the events occurring around them while their hearts had stopped. These accounts included descriptions of medical procedures, conversations between doctors, and even observations of their own bodies from a perspective above or outside of them. Experiences that should have been impossible given the lack of brain function. For example, one patient, who was clinically dead for several minutes, later described in precise detail the efforts made by the medical staff to revive him, including specific actions that took place when he was unconscious. He even accurately described the conversations the medical team had while working to resuscitate him, including a remark made by a doctor that could only have been heard during the period of time he was technically dead. This patient's testimony, along with many others, posed a direct challenge to the scientific community's understanding of consciousness, offering a new perspective on the potential existence of awareness outside the body. The implications of the AWARE study are immense. Dr. Parnia's research suggests that consciousness may not be confined to the brain, and that it might exist independently of the body even after death. This has profound implications not only for our understanding of consciousness itself, but also for the possibility of life after death. If consciousness can persist in a non-physical state, it raises the question of whether there is an existence beyond the physical realm. Furthermore, the AWARE study's findings have also ignited a broader discussion about the mind-body connection, the nature of reality, and the relationship between consciousness and the afterlife. Dr. Parnia's work is pioneering because it brings together scientific inquiry, and the metaphysical questions of life, death, and what happens afterward. The study challenges traditional views and opens the door for further exploration into the mysteries of human consciousness. Dr. Parnia continues to lead the charge in studying the nature of consciousness, with ongoing research that aims to unlock the deepest secrets of human awareness. His work has already sparked significant interest in both scientific and spiritual communities, as it offers new possibilities for understanding life, death, and the existence of an afterlife. As the AWARE study progresses, it is clear that Dr. Parnia's research will continue to provide critical insights into one of the most profound mysteries of human existence. One of the most significant and intriguing findings from Dr. Sam Parnia's AWARE study was the documentation of out-of-body experiences, OBEs, reported by some patients during cardiac arrest. These patients, who were clinically dead for varying periods, later shared vivid and detailed accounts of experiences that occurred while they were unconscious. The patients described perceptions of their surroundings that went far beyond what should have been possible, given that their brains had ceased functioning during the time they were considered dead. OBEs are often considered a hallmark of near-death experiences, NDEs, and the reports gathered in the AWARE study presented fascinating and, at times, mind-boggling evidence that consciousness may persist beyond the moment of death. Many of the patients described floating above their own bodies, observing the medical team as they worked to resuscitate them. In one striking case, a patient who had been revived after several minutes of cardiac arrest recounted with shocking accuracy the actions of the medical team, describing the exact procedures and even naming the staff members involved. The patient detailed how he watched himself being worked on, including the position of his body on the operating table and the specific tools used to try to bring him back to life. The fact that these patients could provide such detailed and accurate descriptions of events that occurred while they were clinically dead suggests a level of awareness that goes beyond the limitations of the physical brain. These experiences challenged the traditional scientific understanding of consciousness and sparked new debates about the nature of the mind and its relationship to the body. The accounts of these OBEs, in many cases, were accompanied by a deep sense of peace and an overwhelming feeling of connection to something greater than themselves. For instance, one patient described hovering above his body and watching as the doctors desperately worked to resuscitate him. He was able to see things from a perspective that should not have been possible given his unconscious state. In another case, a woman who had been revived after cardiac arrest reported seeing her deceased parents, who spoke to her and reassured her, telling her that it was not yet her time to pass on. These experiences, along with many others documented in the study, have prompted researchers like Dr. Parnia to reconsider the nature of consciousness and its potential to exist outside the brain. Additionally, the study found that these experiences were not merely random or subjective. In several instances, patients reported very similar details about their OBEs, regardless of their backgrounds or medical conditions. This raised further questions about the universality of these experiences and whether they could be explained by conventional medical or psychological factors alone. Dr. Parnia's research has highlighted the possibility that OBEs could be a window into a higher plane of consciousness, or an entirely new realm of existence. The AWARE study also collected data that pointed to the possibility that the experiences of consciousness during cardiac arrest might not simply be a matter of brain activity or hallucinatory effects due to a lack of oxygen. Instead, these experiences suggest that consciousness could be a separate entity, capable of existing beyond the confines of the physical body. This notion aligns with the findings of other researchers in the field of NDEs who have suggested that consciousness may not be solely tied to the brain's activity, but could, in fact, persist after the brain ceases to function. The detailed accounts of OBEs provided by patients in the AWARE study have become some of the most compelling evidence in the ongoing debate about life after death. These personal testimonies have the potential to reshape our understanding of consciousness and reality itself. As Dr. Parnia's research continues to unfold, it is clear that the phenomenon of out-of-body experiences will remain a central topic of investigation, with the possibility of profound implications for science, philosophy, and spirituality. Dr. Parnia's work continues to shine a light on the mysteries of consciousness and the afterlife, offering a scientific approach to a question that has fascinated humanity for centuries. His findings have ignited a broader conversation about the nature of life, death, and what might lie beyond our physical existence. While the debate is far from settled, the evidence gathered through the AWARE study has provided a groundbreaking perspective that may one day change the way we view the most fundamental aspects of human experience. Dr. Sam Parnia's groundbreaking research has profound implications for our understanding of consciousness and the afterlife. His findings challenge the prevailing scientific view that consciousness is simply a byproduct of brain activity, suggesting instead that consciousness may be a separate entity, one that is capable of existing beyond the physical body. This has far-reaching consequences not only for neuroscience, but also for our understanding of life, death, and what happens after we die. The AWARE study's findings, especially those relating to out-of-body experiences, have sparked a re-evaluation of the nature of consciousness. Traditional science has long held that consciousness arises from the brain and ceases to exist when the brain stops functioning. However, the detailed reports from patients who experienced heightened awareness during cardiac arrest when their brains had ceased to function challenge this assumption. These experiences, describing vivid perceptions of events that should have been beyond their capability to observe, suggest that consciousness might not be tied to the brain in the way scientists have always believed. Dr. Parnia's research provides compelling evidence that consciousness may be more than just a product of brain activity. In fact, his findings suggest that consciousness could persist even after the brain stops functioning, which has led some researchers to consider the possibility that consciousness exists independently of the physical body. This idea opens up entirely new avenues for understanding the nature of life and death, as well as the potential for an afterlife. One of the most profound implications of Dr. Parnia's work is the possibility that consciousness is not confined to the physical body and may continue after death. For those who believe in life after death, this research offers scientific support for their beliefs, suggesting that death may not be the end of consciousness, but rather a transition into a different state of existence. Dr. Parnia's findings also raise important philosophical and theological questions about the nature of the soul, the afterlife, and the very essence of what it means to be conscious. As more data is collected and analyzed, Dr. Parnia hopes to further explore the implications of his findings, not only for science but for spirituality as well. His research challenges us to think differently about the nature of life and death and invites us to consider the possibility that consciousness, or the soul, might exist beyond the limits of the physical body. Dr. Parnia's research is far from over. In fact, his ongoing studies promise to shed even more light on the nature of consciousness and its potential survival after death. As the lead investigator of the AWARE study, Dr. Parnia continues to explore the mechanisms behind near-death experiences, NDEs, and out-of-body experiences, OBEs, delving into questions that have intrigued humanity for centuries. One of the primary areas of focus for Dr. Parnia is the question of whether consciousness can persist after the brain has ceased functioning. The AWARE study has provided compelling evidence that some level of awareness may continue even after clinical death. But Dr. Parnia and his team are working to further explore the boundaries of this phenomenon. Through continued research and the collection of more patient testimonies, Dr. Parnia hopes to develop a deeper understanding of the processes that occur during cardiac arrest and the potential for consciousness to exist outside the body. In addition to further exploring OBEs and NDEs, Dr. Parnia is also investigating the role of the brain in these experiences. While the AWARE study has provided evidence that consciousness may exist independently of the brain, there is still much to learn about how the brain and consciousness interact during life and death. Dr. Parnia's team is using advanced technologies such as neuroimaging and other techniques to study the brain's activity during cardiac arrest and to determine how consciousness may persist when brain function has stopped. Dr. Parnia's research also continues to investigate the psychological and spiritual aspects of NDEs. Many patients who have experienced near-death events report profound feelings of peace, a sense of connectedness to a higher power, and encounters with deceased loved ones or spiritual beings. These experiences have profound implications for how we understand the nature of consciousness and the afterlife. Dr. Parnia's work aims to explore whether these experiences could provide evidence for a spiritual realm beyond our physical existence. In the coming years, Dr. Parnia plans to expand his research to include a broader range of patient experiences, including those who have undergone prolonged periods of cardiac arrest and those who have had NDEs in non-hospital settings. By examining a diverse array of cases, Dr. Parnia hopes to uncover more patterns and insights that can help scientists and spiritual thinkers alike better understand the mysteries of consciousness, life, and death. In conclusion, Dr. Sam Parnia's research has already made significant strides in bridging the gap between science and spirituality, challenging the conventional understanding of consciousness and life after death. His work has ignited a conversation that goes beyond traditional scientific boundaries, offering new insights into the possibility of life after death and the enduring nature of consciousness. With continued research, Dr. Parnia hopes to bring further clarity to the mysteries of the afterlife and to offer a more comprehensive understanding of the nature of human consciousness.